Hey, Veruca, have you seen that commercial for Sephora? And I think it's some kind of perfume with Janis Joplin song in the background.
No, I have not seen this. What perfume is it, number 1, and also why Janis Joplin?
I don't know the perfume. I can't actually remember what it is, but it is a Sephora commercial for a specific perfume. It keeps coming up on Disney Plus or Hulu every time I watch something. I'm poor, I see it with ads. And that's the ad I continuously get because you know how they love to repeat ads. And I
Mhm.
keep seeing that one. And every time see it, I'm just so angered by it because I cannot think of anything Janis Joplin uh, would like less. Just
Yeah.
knowing what I know about her. What do you think?
Wait, so she's in the commercial or it's, like, just her song?
Her song and her you can hear her voice, yeah. It's a part of
Hmm.
a song of
Hmm.
hers. It goes back
Interesting.
to, we were talking about with Taylor Swift and owning rights,
That's
you
exactly
know?
what I was gonna say, having control of your masters, having
But you don't know that
having
maybe
rights.
the state doesn't have control over masters and they need money or they just don't care that much, but it's so, I guess, ironic, sad, I don't know how to categorize it because if you know anything about Janis Joplin, you would know that that is the complete antithesis of what she stood for with something like Sephora.
Mhm.
And it's just mind blowing to me. I'm Sephora. I don't even think I would do that, you
Like, of
know?
course, people are gonna have something to say about you using Janis Joplin music behind a perfume
Right.
commercial.
Because it's, again, the antithesis of what she was about. And it's just wild to me. Speaking about kind of things like that, things that are misplaced, or I got this idea in my head, I just can't spell it out. But so this episode, we're going to talk about Coachella. Welcome to From Vinyl to Viral. I'm Wes Zennial, and I am joined today by the world's best co host.
Hi, I'm Veruca, Gen Z daughter, and Dad, I think you should consider yourself lucky this episode because I happen to be a little bit of a Coachella expert, I might say, and since you have a little bit of curiosity, I'm ready to get into this.
Okay, expert everyone. Um, ain't all of Gen Z, and that's kind of what we're here to talk about. For me, this idea for the Coachella episode really kind of came out of nowhere. I didn't plan it ahead of time to go in line with the fact that Coachella is currently happening. I just get inundated on social media with all this Coachella content, and I can't help but think, what in the world is going on? Somebody referred to this as the influencer Olympics, and I thought that was funny. But to me, it's just I know about Coachella a little bit, and just seeing this, it just seems so over the top and everything, and I just want to talk about it some. So, I'm gonna start with you, Veruca, and ask you, why is Coachella so important to Gen Z?
We have a long bit of history to go through to even answer that question, which we can take it way back, but I think kind of generally the answer has to come from like 2014, 2016 Coachella era, and that was peak, YouTuber era. We kind of our first influencers of today's age, just going to Coachella, creating so much content for YouTube and Pinterest and Tumblr. I feel like were the main three at the time. And I also feel that's kind of where brands started to take these brand trips or these brand activations, I would say,
Yeah.
to the next level. And so Coachella became like more than this music festival and was truly something to aspire to, I guess. Aspire to the fashion. Everybody wants to be there. Everybody wants to experience it. Like, it's the next level.
Okay. So I just looked real quick. I've been looking at some of the lineups of Coachella, and that year was really 14, 16. Those years where 14 was Outcast, Muse, Arcade Fire. 15 was AC/DC, Jack White, Drake. And 16 was LCD Sound System, Guns N' Roses, and Calvin Harris. If I look at all the lineups, in my personal opinion, those all look like some of the weakest lineups as far as headliners
Yeah.
go.
I think what's interesting about Coachella is where it started and what it is now
Right.
are
I wanna
two
talk about that.
completely different
Right.
things, right?
I wanna talk
Because
about that.
yeah, I mean, let's just talk about that because I think that that's a great
Let me
jumping
start.
on point. Okay, go ahead.
So, Coachella, 2 hours outside of LA, 2.5 hours outside San Diego, and right outside Palm Springs, right? In the middle of the desert. That's what everybody says. They try to make it seems like so austere. But so that's
Mhm,
one thing that's always bothered me about these people going to Coachella. It's like, this is not Burning Man. Okay. You
mhm,
guys are literally in the city. But anyways, this is what I find most interesting. It was started in 1999. I don't know if you know this, but it was announced straight after Woodstock 99.
mhm. It was known to be,
Was
like, anti-Woodstock and anti-Ticketmaster.
back this up real quick
Mhm,
because you're not 100% correct, but you're partially correct. This all started, the idea came about for using that venue in 1993 because Pearl Jam used it. What's it called? The Polo Grounds, the Empire Polo Club. Pearl Jam used it to escape Ticketmaster and wanted to play like the LA, Southern California scene, but they didn't want to deal with Ticketmaster because back in the 90s, Pearl Jam had a huge thing with Ticketmaster, as
mhm,
everybody should. I think we can all agree on that. No matter if you're left, right, Democrat, Republican, Ticketmaster has to be fixed. Um, so that's kind of where they got the idea of like, oh, we could hold concerts out here. But then in 99, they kind of had the idea behind it, but then they watched Woodstock 99, which was more of what you would call like an alt fest, obviously, right? Um, for those of you seen it, or especially Woodstock 94, and then 99 was a little, more mainstream, but they wanted to follow that idea of an alt fest, actually. So if you look at the first several years,
mhm,
the first year was, what was it? It was Beck, Tool, Rage Against the Machine, and Morrissey. And
mhm.
then the next year, you had Bjork, Oasis, Jane's Addiction. And even up to '06, it was Depeche Mode and Tool were the headliners.
Yeah.
And so after '06 is kind of, in my opinion, where they lost the plot and they started to go more mainstream, right? Because I think, what year
Mhm.
was it? They had Beyonce and,
I think it was, like, 2006, 2010, somewhere around there, they had Kanye as, like, the headliner,
yeah,
and I feel like that was really where it, like, took that
yeah.
initial
That
turn.
was 2011, they had Kanye. I guess the years prior to Depeche Mode and Tool, they did have Coldplay and Radiohead, which has become more pop. But yeah, at some point, it became not that,
Mhm.
obviously. It became not that. It became a whole different thing. So, one of my big questions for you is, this is something we talked about a little bit before, but I think, how did it lose the alternative thing? Or is that what we see today? There is no real counterculture. That's why we don't see this. It's all, especially today. Who's the headliners this year? Sabrina, Bieber, and I don't know who else, but
Carol G.
I don't even know who that is. But
Not
cool.
super familiar with her music, but it's really about in the same, like,
Pop
overall
girly.
genre, it's, like, same audience, I would
And
say.
we had Addison Rae perform this year. I saw,
Mhm.
and like, so, we've had the K-pop bands
Yeah,
and
Cat's Eye.
everything. Yeah, and Blackpink headlined what, a couple years ago.
Mhm.
That's a Blackpink is the one Rosie came from, right?
Rosie? I'm
Yeah,
not too familiar with, like, K-pop bands. I do know that
she
Blackpink
sings that
was, like
song with Bruno Mars that got huge at the top.
oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Um,
so backing up a little bit, in the previous, I don't know now, but in the previous Coachellas, they focused more heavily on art and other things too.
See, I think that that's kind of what, like, led them down sort of the wrong rabbit hole, right? Is, like, what kind of 3 things. Number 1, I feel like they kind of set themselves up for failure from the beginning, or I guess failure, success kinda depends on which way
Your
you look
viewpoint,
at it, right? It's probably way more successful than it was ever imagined to be in
as far as
1999
money.
now. Yeah, exactly. But failure as in, like, the genre changed, the audience
And what
changed.
and what you stand for?
Right, and the general goal that was initially set out for it, but I kind of think the number one thing is the area. Why would you go to Southern California? The goal is not really aligning with the location, I think. I think that that
Mm,
was kind of number 1. I think number 2 was exactly what you said, 2006 to probably right up until 2012 was kind of this transitional era. Wow, I'm tripping up
mhm.
all over my own
Actually, it was
terms.
even before that. It was about 2007, 2008. 2007 was Bjork, of all people, Red
Yeah,
Hot
that's
Chili
what I'm saying,
Peppers,
like,
and Rage Against the
2006.
Machine, and then 2008 was Roger Waters, Prince, and Jack Johnson,
Yeah,
and then the next year was Paul McCartney, The Killers, and The Cure. So it was
mhm,
2007, 2008-ish where it went astray. Because how you go from
but
Bjork to now having Paul McCartney?
right. Right. So kind of 2006 to 2010, you really start to I want to say that 2006 to 2012 was its true transitional era because we still have a mix of both of the artists that they would traditionally go with in like 1999 to the early 2000s and a mix of like, some of these other artists or like, the next genre movement that they were really going to. And I think that 2011 was probably like the first year that all the headliners were not really what the traditional Coachella lineup would be.
Well,
Um, I know that, like, when they started to introduce Kanye, I feel that
yeah,
was
that was
really big
Kanye was
transitional
11.
moment. Yeah, and that same year, they introduced a lot of other, like, rap and hip hop artists that it's just, like, complete
Well,
180 really for them. I mean, I guess not really 180, more of like a 90, a big
yeah.
90
Well,
for them.
think about this too, though. To me, it wasn't just Kanye, right? Because Kanye has always been considered outside the norm of traditional hip hop,
Right.
right? I've always loved Kanye, as you know, his music.
Mhm.
And I think Kanye is one of the most accepted music wise outside of his genre, right? To
Oh,
people who listen to
absolutely.
punk and rock, a lot of them love Kanye. And, dating back to, because something that precedes all of this is Lollapalooza, right? That was kind of like big
Mhm.
kicker on all this. It started back in '90, and it was Stream Alt. It was my first concert. I went in '94. It was like the Pumpkins, Beasties, Breeders, L7, um, Tribe Called Quest. So you had hip hop groups at these things. Was the point I was going with, and then the next year I think they had Ice Cube. So that had always been kind of with the alt. They've used it,
Yeah.
and now of course we're not going to get into it, but Lollapalooza has become something completely different now as
Right.
well.
Mhm.
And But maybe that is right, with Kanye being a bit more mainstream, a bit more pop or
I
something,
definitely
but
think Kanye is very mainstream, and I think that that's kind of where they started to lose it. Because I will agree with you, hip hop in and of itself, I think as a genre is not fully a 180 from kind of what Coachella was doing before. I think a lot of, like, pop groups are welcomed or accepted by kind of the punk and rock
Mhm.
space for sure, so yeah, it's is more of like a big 90, but
Yeah.
somewhere around, like, 2012 is where they really start to bring in more of the pop influence,
Mhm.
but I guess my 3rd thing, because of course, like I said, location, and then we have these newer music artists. The 3rd thing is the art that they were bringing in. I think that as soon as you are like, "Okay, it's kind of about the aesthetics," you're kind of
Right.
welcoming a certain group, right? And I
Mhm.
think that Coachella, like you were saying, is not Burning Man, but in a way, they
Right.
try to be like Burning Man. It's more of the digestible version of
Yeah.
Burning Man, I guess, right?
Mhm.
Because Burning Man, of course, is well known for all of the art and experimentalization.
Right.
But Coachella is like the more digestible version of that.
If anything, to me, Coachella is almost like, what's the word? Cosplaying Burning Man
Right. Absolutely. I think absolutely so. And
because,
so, like,
they're trying to stay out there and be like, "Oh, we're camping out here," but you're really outside Palm Springs, my guy. I
right.
would love to live in Palm Springs. That'd be my number one place if I could live anywhere. So,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
I don't wanna live where Burning Man is, right?
Mhm. And all
You
of the
know?
influencers and the celebrities refer to it as the desert, as if it's some, like,
Yeah, right.
ominous sort of place, but like you said,
Exactly.
it's just Palm Springs. So yeah, so then, of course, like, 2014 and 2012, we have peak Pinterest and Tumblr years, okay? 2014 is peak YouTuber. We have YouTubers that are now millionaires off of just being a YouTuber. And
Uh-huh.
so, where are they all going? Coachella, because it's basically a content creating Disneyland at this
Right.
point. But the artists that it has, both musically and visually,
Mhm.
and the location itself.
And
It's
then you
just
mentioned
so
something very
accessible for them.
important. This is the first year I realized it even before you said it. This is the first year I really took notice of it because, again, the coolest thing I've ever known about Coachella was 3, 4 years ago, Blink's reunification show at
Mhm,
Coachella.
mhm,
Outside of that, I'm just like, "Eh, whatever," but this year I did learn, or more so see it, that it's all about brand activation, like you were saying,
mhm. No,
and
that's
all
what
these
is
influencers
like
get flown out there and everything, and, that seems like 90% of what's going on here.
yeah, I think that that's what's interesting now is that, like, we have a total brand takeover, whereas before, it was very much user-generated content was coming out of Coachella in 2014. I think 2016 was kind of where you had a little bit of both still, whereas now it's all of the influencers that you are seeing that are there are fully paid by a brand to be there. They're living
Right.
in brand houses, they're getting
Mhm.
brand passes,
Sure.
they're not there to experience the festival, they're there to work more, it feels like. Whereas, like,
Yeah.
take it back to 2014, we have YouTubers like My Life is Ava, Brendan Rivera, I think that's his name, Meredith Foster, like, just all of these crazy YouTubers that were really there more to, like, create their own content out of it, and then maybe they had a sponsorship with a brand or there was, like, minor plug and play, but 2015, I wanna say this too, because 2015, there was a brand called Tarte Cosmetics, and they created the very first, brand trip, I would say, for
Okay.
influencers, and they kind of started this whole new marketing tactic for brands, in their brand trip genre, I guess. I don't know how to explain that, but they called it Trippin' with Tarte. And the first time they did that was in 2015, and as soon as they started doing that, like, every other makeup
Well
brand started doing it.
well, of course, I mean, it's just like you had these places I remember back in what, 2017, 18. Whenever I first got onto TikTok, I learned about Ape House, right? In
Yeah.
these content creation mansions,
Mhm.
and to me, that's what Coachella has become, is just like, we're gonna take that on the road now.
Yeah. For sure. But I think that's, like, kind of what you're talking about with, like, TikTok hype houses and whatever is more
Mhm.
similar to 2014 Coachella, where all of these YouTubers were going to Coachella as a group, and they were staying in a house as a group, and they were there to, like, make their own content out of it and disperse. Whereas now, these houses that are around Coachella are owned by one company, and then the company is paying for the influencers' tickets and the airfare
Mhm.
and lodging and everything, which is just kind of a whole different beast. And that was 2016. Coachella was the very first time that that was really a thing. And at the time, it was all makeup brands like Beauty, I think was one of them. Of course, Tarte, etc., etc. This year has felt so weird because it feels truly just all corporations.
Right.
I've not heard of a normal person just going to Coachella on, like,
Well, there's this
past, like,
thing, the trend on TikTok called poor, going to Coachella, you
Porchella.
know? Yeah, there's these people talking about what it's like being poor to go to Coachella.
Mhm,
Um, but really hit nail on the head for me is, like, on TikTok, I happen to follow these 2 girls from London. You probably know who they are, Brooke and Jessie, and they choreograph dances. They've choreographed dances for Meghan Trainor, and they just do crazy, not crazy, just dance TikToks or whatever, right? And I always thought they were
Okay.
kinda cool because 'cause they're British and everything, and the way they approach it is a little bit different than most because 'cause they're always wearing these huge baggy sweats and sunglasses doing their dances, and
Okay.
it's just a different approach. But I see the one, she's like, "Okay, it's Coachella." They were leaving London to go to Coachella to start
Mhm.
their Coachella vlog, right? And of course, they're getting on the plane, doing all this. They're flying first class straight from London to LA. They have car service, the whole nine. And I'm just like, man, these people. But of course, they get there and they're doing a house tour, right? Everybody does these house tours. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's brand. It's all brand.
Mhm.
They were brought there. I can't even remember the brand. They were brought there by a brand. And you don't find that out really till later, which I think is interesting. Till you get to the house, they don't tag the brand or nothing until you get to the house, and then they're like, blah blah blah, you know. But it's all brand driven,
Yeah.
and I feel like I've seen so many of these just scrolling through TikTok. If you're any kind of influencer really on TikTok, they're like, oh, so and so sponsoring me to go to Coachella,
Mhm. Right.
and
And even the influencers, like, I've seen videos too where they say, like, if you want to be an influencer and you're taking it serious, this is what you want to do. Just buy the ticket to Coachella anyway, plan to be there, and because even if you are not necessarily being brought there by a brand, you can still get brand activation deals out of already having that ticket, right? Like brands who are
yeah,
kind of
or you
doing the
can meet
budget
people,
version of their activation at Coachella, they're looking for people who already have the ticket to be like, "Hey, let me pay you
right?
$3,000 to make 3 Instagram
Well, it's
story
also
posts
like
while you're there."
the way I see it now is I look at it as it's also meet and greet or a meetup, right? You
Right.
know, it's one of those things, even fancy financial companies do them all the time, cocktail parties or whatever. They have charity things and then you go and meet
Networking.
people. Yeah, networking. Thank you. Good Lord.
Mhm.
Why was I struggling so bad with that? Yeah, to me, it's like huge networking if you went,
Mhm.
and you went
Absolutely.
trying to do the right thing that you wanted to do. You know what, Brooke? Next year we're going to Coachella.
Mhm.
Although I read like 40, above 40 years old, you shouldn't be allowed to go to Coachella. Somebody should
That's
have told Paul
funny.
McCartney that, but well, no, actually, it said anybody who is over 40 and not a performer shouldn't go to Coachella.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
I, I
funny.
have I have no interest in going to Coachella. That looks insane.
Yeah. When I was a middle school till early high school, I remember wanting to really go to Coachella. And for me, it was never the music festival aspect of it. It was always, I knew that all of my favorite YouTubers and celebrities were
Mm,
going to Coachella. And it felt like if you were going to Coachella, you were going to at least see somebody because you see so much content that comes out of it that it's hard to imagine that there are other like, normal people going to Coachella. And so, like,
mhm,
I remember me and all my friends, we wanted to go to Coachella because it has kinda become its own celebrity meet and greet. It's kind of like Comic-Con for, like,
yeah.
not nerdy
Well,
people.
I remember.
When I was first introduced to Coachella, I remember saying something about, like, "Oh, I wanna go to Coachella." And it was never like I wanted to go really, really bad, but I think I mentioned it maybe once. And I remember you and I had a whole discussion about how I shouldn't go to music festivals because it's a place where you get like, sexually harassed and,
Yeah, that's probably
you
well.
lose
You
your
know that
friends and you
they.
don't have self-service and it's dangerous and people are doing
Oh yeah, I
drugs.
do remember that discussion. Um, I do remember that discussion. But I'd read kind of lead up to this episode a lot of stuff about harassment and assault at Coachella. But apparently, it's kind of on a downswing, or so they say.
I always imagined Lollapalooza, Woodstock, and, like, all of those kinda more ravey type festivals would be that way, where it's like, "Ooh, you just, like, don't really know the kind of people that are going there." But Coachella has always felt more of, they call it there's, like, a high trust society environment.
You know, what I listen to, right, in the scenes and stuff I'm interested into,
Yeah.
and I will tell you for a fact that being in the punk scene, going to alternative shows are the safest place there are because those are no threat, right? Because those people are in it for something else. You know, I could see Coachella having this problem simply because you got all these people dressing up, doing all these things, and, you know, predators see that.
Mm.
Predators ain't wanna go get in the pit, right? For
Yeah.
example, I went to some European festivals, but I went to Rock am Ring, which is a big European festival, in 2003? Yeah, it was right before you were born, because at first I thought I was gonna have to cancel because
Dang.
you were coming soon, yeah.
Meanwhile,
So I
I
went
think
to
you were missing, like, the best year Coachella ever had for a lineup.
well, I went to Rock am Ring, which is in Germany, and it's like a 3-day camping rock festival.
Mhm.
And again, most of those people are there for the music and that stuff. Even though there was some pop acts there, it was still, you know, because Avril was there that year. Um, by the way, live, no. Just no. Because we were at the front waiting for maybe the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Avril was before them or something, and just no. I don't know if she's grown, but she had no stage presence then. This was '03, so I guess that's over 20 years ago, so who the hell knows? That's crazy she was performing over 20 years ago. Wow. But I spent a lot of my time at the smaller stages anyways. I don't know because Coachella just seems like a more threat to me than other
Interesting.
festivals.
You gotta think, though, with all of these celebrities and influencers running around, it has to be way more security than normal, because not only do you have your typical event security, you also have the security that comes with
Have you
all
seen
of
the
the
video of, like, Paris Hilton's
Yeah, and her
security?
security guard. Yeah.
Wait a
That's
minute,
been like
she's over
a
40.
Is she?
She's gotta be.
If you're
I
Paris Hilton, it doesn't count. You have to automatically subtract, like, 10 years, I think.
she's gotta be over 40. Yeah, she's 45. She's damn near my age. She gets to run around Coachella, why can't I? I don't know, maybe the security, but it's like the theory with the Avengers, right? When the Avengers came along, more threats came along, right? Came with it. And I feel if you're bringing more celebrities out in the crowd, you're bringing more threat. Because think about this, you got influencer now, which for Gen Z are kind of like a huge part of your celebrity culture,
Mhm.
right?
Absolutely.
So it stands to reason that there's stalkers out there for these folks as
Yeah.
well. Even, you know,
Mhm.
not just for Sabrina Carpenter, or I think, what was it? Who Taylor had one, serious one. Olivia, I think, had a serious one, you know. So I would think that, you know, these stalkers and people like that are going to go to find these people. And even like, again, that celebrity culture piece and being fans. I remember as a kid, for example, I lived not too far in high school from where the Colts had their summer camp, Indianapolis Colts. And so I would ride my bike up there all the time just to try to get interviews and see these guys. So I imagine there's going to be a lot of people, maybe not nefarious purposes, but they want to show up to Coachella to meet these folks,
Right.
to meet Charlie D'Amelio or whoever.
Which I think was, like, definitely, like, 2018, 2019 Coachella was a lot of that. I think after seeing who was going in 2014 to 2016 era, like like I said, even me as a middle schooler, I wanna go to Coachella not because of the music, but because all of my favorite YouTubers were there, right? And it
Mhm.
seemed like if I was gonna go, just walking around the festival grounds, I would probably bump into somebody that I recognized online. But, like I said, I still think that you probably have more security than normal, because not only do you have your event security, but these celebrities and these influencers have their own security as well.
Right.
Especially now, these influencers, really big ones, they really, really do have
Sure,
their own
they have security. Paris Hilton has security, I know. But you also got to consider the fact that, you know, there's almost 250,000 tickets sold.
Mhm.
Okay. And I'm sorry to say there's not 250,000 influencers, right? So There's a lot of regular folk, even though we don't maybe see a lot of it, there's a lot of
Mhm,
regular people. Those people don't have the security, and when you're dealing with huge crowds like that, okay, you remember you've been to Oktoberfest in Munich, right?
mhm,
And you know what that's like, and that's a little over 100,000 people, and you remember how jammed that is and how many people and the drinking and everything, which is occurring at these festivals, the drugs.
mhm,
So, and I mean, you were a bit younger, but I'm sure you remember it quite well and what that could look like in a different way.
mhm.
You you
Yeah,
understand what I'm saying?
I don't know though, because you also gotta take Oktoberfest is like the whole point of going to Oktoberfest is to drink, right? Versus
Sure.
Coachella, I think maybe I mean, this kind of goes back to the whole thing of it's the more digestible version of Burning Man, right? I don't think that people are really doing the drugs or the amount of drugs at least that people are doing at Burning Man. I think that that's the whole
Well,
point
it's probably
because
different.
I think these influencers and people who are going to Coachella are kind of like sissies. I think that maybe they're doing like coke or like some of the
Yeah,
more,
that's what I say, there's probably a lot of coke. Maybe not
you
like
know,
well, you wanna talk about, like, a lot of drugs being done, you're talking about something like Tomorrowland,
yeah,
which is
mhm,
actually a bigger it's the
that
only
like Dutch
festival
rave.
that's bigger than, Coachella.
I
It's
didn't know
actually
that
bigger than
Coachella
Coach
was
yeah,
actually that big though.
because that's the EDM festival.
Yeah.
Tomorrowland, and yeah, but you know what? I bet less happens at Tomorrowland simply because, those people in that EDM scene. Because I used to be a raver myself back in the day, they get on that, like, Molly and all that shit, they're all about the love, man.
Yeah,
And
maybe.
I don't
Yeah,
know, I
I don't know,
just
I just don't think that the kind of drinking or the amount of drinking and drugs happens at Coachella as maybe some of these other festivals.
probably
Especially
not. I
as far as
I still
drinking
bel
goes, I don't think Coachella touches what Oktoberfest is like.
well, I mean, I went to Rock am Ring in Germany, and that was 99% drinking.
Oh, well, I'm sure about that, but that's just like we're talking about Europeans here.
That was 99% drinking, and so
Mhm.
I did look at something talking about Europeans. I had a little slideshow comparison between Coachella and Glastonbury, right, which is in England, which
Okay,
is like a
yeah.
huge festival. I'm sure you're familiar with Glastonbury,
Mhm,
and I found a lot of interesting things. The one thing that people talk about a lot, of course, is the pricing at Coachella,
mhm,
and so they compared a lot of the pricing between Coachella and Glastonbury, which Glastonbury's 10 times cheaper.
of course.
And a lot of the rules are way more relaxed at Glastonbury. At Coachella, you can't bring anything to drink from the camping area or whatever into the festival grounds. And Glastonbury, you can
Okay.
bring your beers, you can do whatever you want. And there's a lot of different rules like that. And I also know that Coachella, I didn't know this, has a curfew and they
Oh, I
shut
know that
down.
they have, like because there was one year that Paul McCartney played 50 minutes after his
Yep.
set was supposed to end,
And
and then the next day, I think The Killers or somebody tried to do the same thing, their, like, video was immediately cut.
yeah,
Um, but is
which
that
is
what you're talking about,
crazy.
just sound curfew?
Yeah, because like Glastonbury, or even when I went to Rock am Ring, those festivals in Europe, you have afters that
Right.
last until like 5, 6 in the morning because they'll have on one of those big grounds, just like Coachella, you have tons of different things set up. You have stages, but you also have like mini clubs set up or arenas. And
Mhm.
they'll have DJs playing music till like 5 or 6 in the morning, like a rave.
Yeah.
I never made it to one. I always wanted to, but I was too far gone by the time
Yeah.
that happened every time. But so I do think that's interesting. So maybe that helps. Maybe some of the safety and security at Coachella.
Yeah, I just can't imagine that, like, the neighbors around Coachella are really
Yeah,
gonna
that's
let
probably
some
what
of
it
these
is.
things slide, right?
Yeah, that's probably what it is, honestly, because like Rock am Ring is held at Nürburgring, which is a huge F1 type track out
Mhm.
in the middle of the woods of nowhere. So they're like, let them go all night. We don't care. I do think that's interesting. But again, when you have a mass of people, 250,000 people or whatever the case is, they say there's a capacity of 125, but they sold 245,000 tickets. So do with that what you will. There is potential for bad actors and bad stuff to happen.
Mhm.
And I stand by what I said when you were younger that, yeah, as a young lady, it's probably not the best idea unless you have a group, to unfortunately, I believe that to be true, but I don't think I guess it's not that big of a problem. I heard it's on the downfall, like I said, I was reading about it. But, like, the first couple years or no, not first couple years, but, like, when you were talking about when it started to switch, I guess that was a big deal. Assaults and stuff like that were happening,
Hmm.
like, the first couple years where it became more pop-oriented and more,
Mhm.
you know and then, of course, with the influencers and the celebrity worship type idea going on out there. So, I wanna go back to something that we glossed over that I found very interesting, something we talked about a little bit before on the podcast. With the music change, is it simply because they wanna go more pop and attract more influencers, or is it because, as Billy Corgan said from the Smashing Pumpkins on his podcast, that rock is dead, it was killed on purpose, and the counterculture is gone? What do you think?
Man, that is such a good question because, like, you have to man, that is really something to dive into because, like I said, okay, so they have a period where they transition a little bit more to hip hop, right? They bring in
Mm.
Kanye, a bunch of other artists that I can't
Jay-Z
name
came
off at
in.
the top of my head, but yeah, that are like we said before, not really like a 180 from
Right.
punk or rock necessarily, but are definitely a little bit of a change, but maybe more accepted
Drake came
the
in.
same audience. Right, yes, Drake is a good one. I think Drake was definitely more when they were going a little more towards the pop scene,
Mhm.
but was that itself did they think that they were staying true to their audience by doing that, or do you think that they were like that was part of a purposeful
Well, I
transition?
think it's interesting because
Is like
same
what you
thing,
gotta ask.
we discussed this before, even hip hop started very much in the history of hip hop, and what I grew up with started as really a counterculture movement
Absolutely. It's just
in and
like
of
a different
itself.
kind.
Yeah, that's why a lot of punk fans listen to a lot of hip hop, and they swear by, like, NWA and these things because or Public Enemy because they were kind of the punk version or they were punk with a beat, right? Kinda deal.
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
although they had a different take on things and a different slant, but it was still the "damn the man," right?
Yeah.
More or less. And with that, I think going back to Drake, I like Drake a lot. I listen to Drake a lot, but he doesn't have that in his music.
Right. Right.
Even some of Kanye can be back and forth on his music,
Mhm.
but, like, I look at that too as another case of did rock die? Because when I say rock, I mean this counterculture idea, right?
Okay.
Not just the music sound, but you know, this counterculture idea because I look at a lot of hip hop too, or rap, whatever you wanna call it. They don't have
Yeah.
it anymore either. Like 90% of the music you hear coming out of that scene is it started back in what, 16 or 17? I don't know, probably before then. I just wasn't hip to it with the whole trap scene, right?
Yeah.
And the trap
Travis
scene is
Scott.
yeah, the trap scene is, not that at all,
Mhm.
because they're about money, girls, we'll say, and stuff, right?
Mhm.
Which is kind of the
See, and I
antithesis.
think that that's kind of like the route that Coachella went down because there was a year that Travis Scott was a headliner along with a bunch of other trap music artists. And I think that that's kind of, and I want to say that that was like around the same time that they were having Calvin Harris and some of
Right.
these more
That
like
was huge back
day.
in the mid tens, right? Calvin
Right.
Harris, Chainsmokers, Diplo, all these guys. I love them
Mhm.
all. So
Mhm. Which is interesting because I feel like they are the more mainstream version of what EDM or rave
right,
culture
right, yeah,
is,
100%. Oh yeah.
and so it's kind of interesting that they would bring them in and then have them at Coachella when all of these other EDM fests and
Mm,
rave concerts already kind of exist.
mhm.
But I do think that in some way it has to be like, counterculture is kind of dead because even when they were still trying to have more of these rock or punk artists, they were kind of cycling through the same artists. Like, I think
Yeah, it
Rage
was
Against
like
the
Green
Machine
Day.
was
Yeah,
there this over and
yeah,
over. I
they
think,
were. I looked.
The Strokes was there over and over. I know that Green Day was, like, literally there last year as a headliner.
Was a year or
Um,
2, and they had to the Chili Peppers over and over.
yeah,
They did it several
exactly.
times.
And so I feel like they
Yeah,
were
and
just kinda, like,
again,
running out of who they could have.
yeah, again, the Chili Peppers, Green Day, I've been a huge fan of the Chili Peppers, not their newer stuff, but they're not that anymore. They are not
Mhm,
the counterculture anymore. Neither
mhm,
really is Green Day, and honestly, at this point, I got a whole other take on this, but I'm not gonna get into it, but I could get into it because I do think it does signal the same thing as Coachella, the Rage Against Machine thing, because to a lot of people, right, that is the tantamount of counterculture, right? Rage Against the Machine with their lyrics and what they're after and everything, and but at the same time, they are now selling $300 tickets.
mhm,
So, like, what the hell? You know who Youngblood is, right? Is that
mhm.
his name? The British dude.
Yeah, that's Youngblood.
Yeah,
Black
that
hair.
did the yeah, did the Aussie tribute.
Mhm,
He said he couldn't imagine a world, where he's charging 100 quid a ticket for his fans,
hmm,
because to him, that's not rock and roll, you know?
m'kay.
So, I guess in a way, I kinda see maybe his rage and some of these guys, these counterculture guys have priced their people out, right? Because a lot of these people that are gonna be into something like rage or counterculture, angry at the world people right now, right? It's not influencers because they got money. They got brands taking them on trips. They don't care about Trump's tariffs or this, that, Iran war, right? They got nothing to
Mhm,
worry about. But the folks that do, like me and you, common folk, right? We're angry. We're mad as hell. A lot of people are in America, right? But they've been priced out of shows. So it's not even if you were to start a punk band, a lot of these punk bands, they can't get anybody to fill the seats because they're charging too much. Or they're forced to charge too much. I don't care how you want to look at it. And I think maybe that's part of the reason it's been killed.
yeah, maybe. Like, I would like to think that maybe Coachella did try to continue down the route of having these more punk or rock groups come in, but that they just couldn't get them to agree to do it because as soon as they started having Kanye and some of these more hip hop artists that were mainstream, it was like they're the audience for these smaller punk or rock groups, like they weren't going, so why would they waste their time
Mm.
on being the
Right.
headline?
This year at Coachella, I will say this for them. They did have like the new quote unquote punk darlings for the past couple years played there. Turnstile. I don't know if you've heard of them,
I've
but
heard of them, but I don't think
you
I've like
probably have heard of them.
listened to them.
And if you heard them, you would probably know it because they're trending. They're the punk darlings of the world. They played all these big festivals in Europe, but they did have them at Coachella, and a lot of people went and probably enjoyed it. But like
Mhm.
true punk fans, are they going to Coachella to see Turnstile? Right? Because they most of them can't afford it.
Right. Exactly.
I read somewhere today that at going the cheapest way possible is still going to cost you close to 3 grand to go to Coachella.
Mhm.
The cheapest way possible. When you factor in like shuttles, food, even if you're car camping and all that, a general admission ticket. Now, I have a question for you
Okay.
since you're the expert. So it's over 2 weekends, which I think is weird. Do they stay there all week?
We're talking about from weekend to the next weekend? Is that what we're
Yeah.
talking about?
Yeah. Did those people camp all week or?
No, you buy a ticket for one weekend or you buy a ticket for the next.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So is it the same headliners again?
I'm pretty sure. You buy a 3-day festival pass
Okay.
for either week 1 or week 2. It's the same festival either way, same headliners.
So I'm spending $3,000 for the 3 days.
Yeah.
That's what you're telling me. And nobody stays there through the week.
No.
Okay. Do your influencers stay there all week? I assume?
That's a good I don't think so. I wanna say that the influencers only go to one weekend. Don't I guess maybe some do,
I would think
because I
so.
have seen, like, some influencers have 6 days worth of outfits.
Right. I would think they do because they're already there, especially if they came overseas or from a long distance. Because I'm sure it's just like if you have a big football game, big basketball game, or NASCAR event comes to your city, there's activations throughout the week leading up to it.
Going back to my example of brands paying influencers to do 3 Instagram story posts while they're there. I do know that they will differentiate between whether or not they want content actually at festival grounds versus just during the week around Coachella, off festival grounds or what.
Well, I'm sure they also bring them, like into LA to do different things, meet and greets or whatever too. That's what I'm talking about. Like usually
Mhm.
when you have big events, you will have activations the week leading up to it where you can meet your favorite driver if NASCAR's coming to town or all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure it's the same thing in Southern California where they're doing meetups and all kinds of live podcasts. We should make our goal next year to do a live podcast from Coachella. Who wants to hook us up? Be going wild.
Actually, what this is making me think about the most interesting or the funniest post I've seen from this year's Coachella is all of the people making a mockery of these influencers who are going with just the most random brands. Because, like I said, this year's Coachella has seemed so absurd comparatively. It has just become way more than it has ever been as far as brands that are going and different activations that are happening, where it's like, man, this influencer went with some fuck ass Vaseline company to attend Coachella.
Did he know about that? Hey, did you know Coachella once sued Diddy?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, he tried to start like Coachella. Sean Diddy Combs,
Oh,
so
okay. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, and they sued him, and they also sued, like, Whole Foods, I'm sorry, and Urban Outfitters because they were trying to put something together that was like a eating and tasting and thing and, like, just hipster stuff, and they were gonna call it Wholechella,
Mhm.
and they sued them too.
You know what? That you bringing up the word hipster actually makes me think of something really important, which is that like 2014 was like peak hipster
Hipster,
era.
mm,
And that was kind of its own counterculture thing. So maybe that was
yeah,
kind of where we lost the counterculture along the way because a lot of those more hipster artists became mainstream.
yeah, maybe.
They just didn't
I
have the
mean,
dedication to counterculture like some of your punk bands.
part of me wants to believe that there's gonna be a big explosion of it, um in response to the past couple years, right? Everything that's going on, Iran, Donald Trump, just everything. Not to get too crazy into the politics, but everything that's going on really since COVID. People have just become so disenfranchised by so many things for so many reasons. Epstein, and all these different things.
Mhm. Well, you gotta think maybe it's kind of already making its way back. Cause have you seen this TikTok trend with that new, band Dexter and the Moon Rocks, and it's like the "Remember Your Roots, White Boy," and it's the song that's
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah.
"Excuse me, I'm out of rhythm, taking pills and sleeping in a car."
Yeah, I don't know. Do you pay attention to Coachella now because of the music artists, or you want to see the fashion, or do you care about influencers?
I feel like I have always paid attention to Coachella just for the fashion. I mean, and this year's Coachella has kind of lost me. When I say that I'm an expert in Coachella, it's really Coachella 2014 to 2019. I think that after COVID happened, like, it just kind of became something totally
Well, they
different.
missed 2 years in 2020 and 21
Well, yeah, of
because of
course.
COVID.
But as soon as they came back, it was, like, just something totally other.
Mhm.
Um, I think that this year's Coachella has captured the eyes of the mainstream more because of, like, Justin Bieber, and then, of course, we saw the trend
Sabrina.
earlier this year of, like, 2026 is so 2016 was a peak Coachella year, peak Tumblr, peak Pinterest, peak YouTuber, like I said, and so they're bringing a lot of the same fashion that was popular in 2016, especially the boho kind of festival goer thing is back this year in 2026. And of course, with Justin Bieber, it's like very nostalgic, I think, this year
Mhm.
otherwise. But yeah, I mean, when you look at what's really happening, I think it's not really something to
Okay.
celebrate
Well,
as much.
speaking of, let's talk a little bit about Bieber's performance. What are your thoughts on how he did it and what he did?
I think I think it's so funny because I've seen a couple different things about it. One was that somebody said it was like sitting with your boyfriend and he's just showing you all the memes in his camera roll
Yeah,
kinda
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
and I thought that that was funny, but I think more so what I agree with was another thing I saw that said, like that he was just sitting there reliving his childhood that he had because
Mhm,
he never, like, really got I don't know, Bieber is so interesting because he's, like, so unserious, right? We see the videos of him and Hailey, and
mhm.
everybody, of course, judges their relationship,
Sure.
but I think that everything he does is just, like, a response to the explosion of fame that he had
Uh-huh.
in
Sure.
his youth.
100%. On my opinion, so I read something that you may not know, and it's something we've discussed on this show before,
Mhm.
and it's about masters again. So apparently he sold some of his early masters for $200 million.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So his first couple, 3, 4, I don't remember how far forward they came, but yeah, he sold a lot of them for $200 million. And so part of the reason he did what he did with the YouTube was because he doesn't he gets paid more by doing that instead of them taking the money. Like, he can still perform the songs, but that $10 million fee or whatever he got, he would be paying a percentage of that to whoever he sold the masters to because they own the royalties. So
Mhm.
that apparently that was part of it,
Okay.
part of the deal. And yeah, I'm watching it, and at first I'm just like, "Is this dude just doing karaoke to YouTube?" It's like what your Uncle Dan does when he gets drunk, he starts watching YouTube videos of music and starts singing along. That's what he used to do.
Mhm. Mhm.
And, I'm a little bit confused because, like, the audio, that YouTube video, and he's just singing with it, what was going on there? Do you know?
I mean, I definitely saw, like, the music video audio was definitely playing in the background, and he was singing along to his own audio. From what I wonder, because I didn't really get to see long enough snippets or clear enough snippets to really get it. I need to know from a production standpoint, did they plan it to where it's actually a recording of the YouTube screen and then they play the actually quality version of the audio? Or was he like legitimately just, here we go, audio jack into the laptop, YouTube? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Was it all taken care of beforehand?
Yeah, that's
And there
because
was
that's kind of what I would
was there a set
imagine.
list is basically what you're saying.
Yeah. Was there, like, an actual production plan, is what I'm saying.
I I'm going to go with probably.
You have to think they would have had to. It's not like you can
Yeah.
really just, like, hook up a laptop and start I mean, I guess you could, but I just don't think that that would have really flown. And I think even if he, said to his production team, "Okay, I wanna play some YouTube videos and sing along to them," I don't think that it was ever going to be just, "Okay, yeah, let's just plug in your laptop and screen share to the big screen up
Well,
there and you can
no.
just sing along." Like, that's never how that stuff flies in production, and so
Right,
I
I
think
saw a
that there
snippet
was a
of
little
his
more
sound
of,
check, and that's what they were doing. In his sound check, that's what they were doing.
I don't know,
So,
it's
I don't know, people have argued about that, and people have, also said it was just so deep because it was, like, Justin performing with his younger self, and
yeah,
it's like, it remind me of Mac in the Taylor Swift episode talking about she liked the idea of the re-records because it was older Taylor singing younger Taylor songs.
mhm,
Um, I don't know about that, but of course, Justin Bieber, like, who knows what's going on with that guy, right? Because like you said before, his explosion and
mhm,
everything, he never had a chance to have any kind of normal growth. And hell, and if you've heard anything or know anything, you know that there's some good chances he was involved with Diddy in ways that weren't great. Not just being involved in Diddy on that way, but being a victim of
a
Diddy's.
victim, yeah,
Yeah.
mhm,
And there's a lot of weird stuff there. So yeah, that kid, you almost feel sorry for him,
mhm.
everything he went through. And yeah, I just thought, I don't know, it's got everybody talking, right? And that's what you aim to do. A lot of people are hurt because they say, well, what if Sabrina had done that instead of this huge show she created?
Well, I think
Um,
that I don't know, okay, I should also have preface, like, when I was a kid, I was very anti-Bieber, like,
okay.
was never what is it, a believer? I was
A
never a
believer? Yeah.
believer. I actually remember, like, in 2nd grade, one of my classmates had, like, a birthday party, and of course, as you do in grade school, like, everybody goes to the birthday party, everybody's invited, and I remember showing up and, like, wasn't, like, exactly close friends with this girl, but her whole birthday party theme was Justin Bieber, and I was just like, "Oh," like, scoff at at this mess, and, one of her birthday gifts was, Justin Bieber concert tickets, and she, like,
Oh, wow.
went with a friend and everything, yeah, and me and my what would I have been, like, 6, 7, something like that? And I was just like, scoff, like, I can't believe this. This is ridiculous. Could you be more unprofessional?"
I don't
Um,
care. That one album
but I will
is
say, like,
amazing.
as he went on and as I got older, I definitely had more respect for him, especially as he became more of a mainstream pop person for everybody and not just, he almost felt more boy bandish. Obviously, he's a solo artist, but he felt more boy bandish when he first got started, and I was never really into that, but as he went on and, like, became a true pop artist, I liked his music, but was never a Justin Bieber fan per se, but I think that just him as a character now is, like, just so funny. I don't know.
Well,
It's really entertaining to me.
here's what I will say. I don't care what anybody says, and you know this to be true. In 2015, he released the album Purpose, and that album is amazing. No skips. I love it. 10 to
Yeah.
10.
Like I said, I
Um,
think that as he got older, he definitely became more of pop for everybody. Everybody liked Justin Bieber as he went on. Um, but now to your point about what you said about the Sabrina Carpenter thing, I don't think that anybody should be upset about what he did because I guess it's kind of now we talk about Kanye again, but who expects to go to a Kanye show and not like basically get pranked, right? You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? He
Uh,
definitely takes his music more seriously, so stuff like that doesn't really happen all the time. But when you just think of who the artist is that you're going to
yeah.
see, there are
That
certain
was
things
going to
that
be
you have
my
to
argument.
expect. And I think that Justin Bieber is kind of a prankster now, and so it's kind of something that you would expect. Now, if Sabrina Carpenter did the same thing, obviously people are going to take it a different way because it would have been something totally out of the blue.
Right. And I agree. So my take on that is obviously this big performance and everything. That's kind of who Sabrina is in a
Mhm.
way, right? To me personally, a lot of people will disagree, and that's cool. To me, she's a show first, music second person, right?
Mhm.
And, we had this conversation back in the Taylor pods about, I just want to see Taylor with a guitar, right? Because to me, she's a music first. show second type person. Best way I could say is to me, her music is amazing, right? Written and everything, and we don't need the theatrics. Where I feel personally for me, Sabrina and artists like that, the theatrics or whatever you want to call it is bigger for them just because their music isn't as serious or something. I don't know. I'm just old,
Oh, no.
because
It's
like you
funny.
said, that's what Sabrina does. She prances around in her little outfits and makes her jokes and does her thing, and it works for her. So who am I to say? Now, and to counter that argument, I would say if Lana Del Rey sat down and did that, I would be fine with it.
Yeah. Mhm.
I just don't think it's as sexist as everybody makes it out to be. But maybe it is. What do I know? Speaking of which, did you see any clips of the Sabrina set?
Mhm.
What'd you
Mostly
think?
people talking about her hair because everybody was like, she came to the set with different hair. There wasn't like bangs. The bangs weren't banging. Uh, and so people were saying that she looked more like Maya Hawke from Girl Meets World.
Stranger Things?
Girl Meets
Oh,
World. Or no, sorry,
Maya Hawke.
what is her name in Girl Meets World?
Uh,
Maya Hart.
so back on track here. Sabrina. So when she performs this weekend, is she gonna do the same thing? Is Justin gonna do the same thing?
I don't know. I don't know. I guess we'll see. I feel the answer is that it's going to be like similar but different. I think actually for Sabrina, I could see it being pretty much the same thing. I remember when Lana Del Rey went to Coachella, it was the same thing. Both weekends. I think that Justin Bieber, if he's truly trying to play it off as a prank, it has to be something different, right? Because if he sits down and he does the same thing again, then you kinda lost the shock
Well,
value.
the thing is like, one, I think Sabrina's will be the same. It's just like Taylor Swift playing back-to-back shows, right? They're all the same thing. The
Yeah,
Eras Tour. Mine's the hidden song, whatever. You get my idea, right? When a band goes on tour, it's the same set every night, and usually 90% same set list.
yeah.
Kinda think that you're gonna get a lot more or different people that's to see the show than saw the last show, right? If he went out and kinda did, like, quote, unquote, "a real show," people are gonna feel aggrieved that saw him the week prior. You know what I really think is funny because 'cause I've watched it play out in the media and TikTok is when he first did that, initially, the reaction was, like, hate, and as the week's gone on, I've seen it turn more to love.
See, I never saw any of the hate that you're talking about. I
Oh,
just saw
really? Yeah, at
people
first
being like,
people
"Oh, this is funny," and
were
it's like
hating,
sitting down with the boy and he's showing you all of the memes in his camera roll or like,
but now people are just like, "It was so intimate," and all this stuff, and
yeah, I never saw any of the initial hate. I think that that's you being older and that Gen X and millennials take things more seriously and you see more of the Facebook style stuff, you know?
okay.
Not to
You
roast
say
you
so
or anything,
if you
but
say so. Well, I could turn around and say you guys just live in a thing where everybody's an influencer and you guys melt down at a single inconvenience.
it's
But that's some stuff to say for another pod.
like the roast of Tom Brady. A roast podcast.
So you don't wanna go to Coachella anymore?
No, even when I was in middle school, it was never like a man, if I ask enough times, I'm gonna get to go, and, like, I can think about it as a serious wish list item, if that makes any sense, but more of like a, "Man, it would be so cool to go to Coachella," versus like, "No, I don't think I really care." I'm not a big concert person anyways. Obviously, I've seen a lot of concerts, but I think about some of the friends that I have that really truly are concert people, and I could never really be into it like that. And music fest in general,
Yeah,
no.
the
And like
music fest is
like
too
I
much for
said,
me.
my interest in Coachella before was still more of like a fashion thing and like going to in middle school it was more of like I just want to go see the YouTubers that I watch and I watched those YouTubers because they were posting about fashion and so my whole interest in Coachella was just the fashion and the Pinterest aspect of it. So, yeah, now that I'm older and it is what it is. I don't have any interest in Coachella.
I don't have interest in Coachella, as you know. I've been to a lot of concerts. I still go to quite a bit. I prefer smaller shows now. I did actually enjoy it when we went to Zach Bryan. That was a bigger show, obviously, and that
Mhm.
was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But we had really good seats and weren't bothered that much. So
Mhm.
when you're at the club level sitting on the rail and nobody's in front of you, you can sit the whole time and the way his stage design is. So
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. Um, Before that, I went to another big concert was My Chemical Romance, but it's just not for me anymore. I don't think. So yeah, I go to smaller shows usually. Unfortunately, a lot of them are standing, kind of like the Joan Jett thing when we went to see Joan Jett.
Oh, yeah. Like more
Yeah.
bar setting,
Yeah. Um,
which
Plus a lot of the
definitely
bands I'm
interesting to
into,
me.
that's what they play. So
Right.
I mean,
Which that's really
I would go see anyone in the Sphere, literally anyone.
that is interesting because that goes back to people that you're seeing at the Sphere and the people who are buying tickets to shows at the Sphere, I think are creating kind of that same high trust society environment I was talking about before because these tickets are
Mhm.
so expensive. It's just kind of a different concert going experience. But when I think about some of the smaller shows I've been to, or even some of the larger shows I've been to, and the kind of people who are buying the quote unquote cheaper
Right.
seats for those shows, they're not really there for the music. They're there
The
for like,
party.
yeah, the party, the social aspect of it. And that's kind of why I don't really like
Yeah.
concerts
Well,
as much anymore.
I
Like,
used to
I
be
think
that guy.
about,
Like every
yeah,
show I went to, I blacked out 90% of
right.
them, even big concerts, because I was just there to. I mean, I like the music, obviously, but it was just a party for me.
Yeah. I went and saw All American Rejects right before they started doing that whole, like,
A
backyard
house
concert
show.
thing. I think the whole concert was general admission minus maybe a VIP ticket of some sort, but I remember we went and it was an outdoor concert. We stood kind of on the back area line. I didn't really have any interest in being right up on this stage, and I remember everybody that was back there was not singing along,
Yeah.
didn't even know the opener, and they just had no interest in what was going on,
Sure.
and it was awkward. I don't know, to be in that space
Yeah.
and you really like the band and you're, like, getting all hype, and then everybody around you is just kind of, like,
Yeah.
dead
Well, you still see that. We
versus, like,
went
drinking.
a couple weeks ago, we went and saw the Menzingers and I Am the Avalanche, which are 2 post-hardcore type punk bands, and especially the Menzingers, they have a pretty big following, and people that l it's one of those bands where if you like the Menzingers, you love the Menzingers. It's one of your favorite bands, right? And, but it was funny, we went to this place and we saw people there that obviously had never been to a show like this before. Just
Exactly,
the way
and
they
I
were dressed. Dude, what? There was this, young man and girl, like, standing near me and Elise, and we're almost by the stage, and this girl's got, like, this dress on. It's not even, like, a cool dress for, like, that scene. It was just a normal preppy dress, and I'm just in high heels too. And I'm just like, a lot of people there are older, so there's no, like, moshing or anything like that crazy.
mhm.
There's people jumping around, but at the same time, I'm just like, "What are you doing right now?" Like, it was just so
Yeah.
funny,
Yeah, that's what I
and
mean. That's definitely the smaller concert culture, and that was same thing, like, this All American Rejects concert I went to was definitely more smaller concert culture, like I mentioned, the tickets were all general admission, and so I feel like when you get tickets that quote unquote "affordable," you get people who go to these concerts
it's
that are
like
like,
date night.
hashtag support small artists, And you're
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
or it's like a date night idea,
right. Like,
like
let's just
because
go
some of the
see this band. Let's just go
because
see
some of
live
these
music.
venues. Yeah, exactly, and they go see live music, and it's actually a show of some sort. And some of those places too, it's like they show up for live music, like at a House of Blues, but House of Blues also hosts known artists, right? Because we
Yeah,
saw Joan Jett at a House of Blues,
right.
and so then they just kind of show up date night at the House of Blues, and like, oh, let's go to this show, see some live music,
Exactly.
support a local artist.
Hashtag
By the
live
way,
music, hashtag date night, hashtag support small artists. That's what
um,
it feels like.
also, also, I just
Mhm.
want to throw this out there since we're talking about support local artists. I live in Oklahoma. I have a pretty good sized backyard, All American Rejects. I heard that they're going on again to do the backyard tour. So holla, I
I'm pretty
got
sure
you.
I sent them, like, a TikTok message about it one time.
Yeah. They are from Oklahoma. So let's go.
Mhm. Yeah, pretty funny.
So let's wrap this episode up on Coachella. One more thing before we go. I want to ask you, Veruca. I know you're working, but record store day is Saturday. So hashtag support your local record stores. If you were going, have you seen anything that you would want?
Oh, I know that I did. I mean, it's been such a while since I actually, like, looked at the list, but I know that this year's record store list actually looked pretty good, so definitely go hashtag shop local here.
You want the 45 of Elizabeth Taylor
No, there was something else I wanted
or
that
the
was on
7
there, I
inch?
forget what it was, but
There's a Misfits album coming out that's been out of print that I don't have. There's supposedly this demos and rarities from Third Eye Blind that looks really cool. It's like alternate versions of some of their songs. And at one point, I looked on the list and I saw a Sex Pistols release, but I looked on the list yesterday and there was no Sex Pistols on there, so I don't know what's up with that.
that's odd.
And there's actually a Joan Jett and the Blackhearts live album, and the Stone Temple Pilots live album I'd be interested in, but really the only number one for me is going to be the Misfits. This has been From Vinyl to Viral. I'm Wes.
Habaruka.
And thank you for listening. And if you guys know anybody at Coachella wants us to do a live podcast next year, hit me up. Let us know. Till
We'll
next
do
time.
any
Peace.
random Vaseline brand.
I don't know about the Vaseline brand, but yeah, sure. Why not? Till next time. Peace.
Peace.